Diagweev Galera Cordia August Thafoil Tarot. Welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lear Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary, Clare's Wish Foundation in Limerick, and Teal Animal Rescue in West Limerick. And oh my God, how long have I been trying to get this man on my show? And finally, I wore him down. My special guest today is Arshad Awan from Pakistan, and I got to know Hello, Arshad.
Good evening. Because it's 4 o'clock here, that's why it's evening here.
And it's 11 a.m. here.
Yeah. And thanks so much. I'm getting some screen. Got it. I'll just press that because I can't see you. Okay. That was a piece. So thank you so much for inviting me.
And, look, I wanted you on for ages.
I may not be on my best, but I'll try to be my best, as there's a lot of history, right from, if you go to my father's records, it is from 1930.
Yes.
But then but if you want to come to my record, that will start after our in the life in Pakistan. So there are two different things.
Two different worlds colliding.
Yeah.
Arshad, your son Fahad is a psychiatrist here in Limerick.
Limerick.
He was a professor out in the University of Limerick, and now he's in Clare. He took, I believe, he took over from Dr. Banji.
Yes, yeah.
What was it like when you found out that Fahad was going to be traveling all this way across from Pakistan to Ireland, 5 hours behind your time zone? Did you find it difficult to not have him in the country with you?
Yes, in fact, we were very happy because I was just surprised, because mostly people from Pakistan, either they are going to UK or to USA or Canada, but he chose Ireland. And we were surprised that how he got Ireland. But anyway, a team had come from Ireland for interviewing, and they interviewed him and they selected him. And he came home and said, "I'm selected for Ireland." So we were surprised because we were absolutely we didn't know nothing about Ireland.
Yeah,
Nothing. So we were very shocked and surprised and happy. So when he went to Ireland, and then we started communicating, and then we started to. He went in 2015 or 16.
1916, yeah.
No, 2016.
1920, yeah, sorry, 2016.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So then after that, we started to get connected from Pakistan to Ireland, because not many people know about Ireland. You see, UK is an island. Ireland is an island, and nobody knows about it. Very few people in Pakistan. So they were always.
We here in Ireland, we're a very small country, but somebody once said that England is a big country that always puts itself down. Ireland is a small country of people who raise themselves up. They always see themselves as being bigger than they actually are. We have this image of ourselves. We're almost like this little kitten looking in a mirror and seeing themselves as a big tiger. We see ourselves as that big tiger on the world. And yet, when you go to some places, they think they either don't or have never heard of Ireland, or they think that we're still part of the UK. And that can lead to its own problems, as well, when you make those mistakes. But we think of ourselves as being a huge country, and many people don't know of us.
Exactly. But since Fahad went there, my son, and we started to come to know a lot of things about it. And then surprisingly, the Asians, and Indian Pakistan or Asians, they know Ireland is a part of England, UK. But when they started to come to know that Ireland got independence from the British in somewhere 1922, 1916 or
1916 rising.
1916 rising, and then I think final independence in 1922, something like that. And everybody was surprised. Well, it's a different country. So, and then you know that we have been to Ireland in 2017. We came, he invited us, and we came there. And then he put us in his car, and every weekend from one county to the another county, and our 3 month stay, we had north, south, east, west of Ireland. We saw all the everything.
Yeah.
You have got a background of a river or a lake.
Of a river.
Is
Or,
that
yeah,
Shannon?
well,
Is
it's
that
a lake,
Shannon?
actually. You're quite correct. It's a lake with ducks floating on it.
It's a beautiful, people used to tell me, yeah, what is this? The Irish water is blue. Because how
I,
come blue? I said, I don't know. Nature has made Ireland so beautiful that the water is blue.
did you
And I
like
said,
Ireland when you were here?
oh, I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you that it was so beautiful. And I mean, the people, especially I told Fahad that, yeah, the people are quite different. They're quite different people. And they're much different to the British people. And you can make out from the accent. They're different people and they are friendly and they are good. Then I started to compare Ireland with my country, Pakistan. I said, we can't see so much greenery. We can't see so much greenery in Pakistan. Then there's mostly mountains and deserts, and then like this. But Ireland was completely green. Then I remembered somebody said it is like they used to call it the Emerald Island. The
Yeah.
emerald. Why? Because emerald is green. Is
There's
green.
so much we
Uh,
have. They say we have 40 shades of green in Ireland. The
oh, I see.
greenery goes from, and it goes there. There's 40 shades of green. And there really is, because
It
depending
really
on
is
the weather, I mean, it's a very, very green land. Uh,
very green. Very
Mainly
green.
because we get so much rain, Fahad.
Ah, yes, 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 yeah.
But but
Acha,
but no, but
Mary,
yeah,
Mary, I compared when I came back to Pakistan from Ireland. I compared Islamabad from Ireland, and a lot of similarities from Ireland and Islamabad because Islamabad is very green. Islamabad is
really,
also very green comparing to other cities of Pakistan.
yeah.
Islamabad was very green. And I used to compare and I used to tell people that we are walking here, we have got tracks, jogging tracks, walking tracks. I said, yeah, this looks like just like a small, a little Ireland. Islamabad is a little Ireland.
Yeah.
So then the people started to get idea. Ah, I see Ireland is like this. Okay. And they were very happy to hear all the things, all the stories I told them about Ireland. And that was a beautiful trip. And I will never forget that. I'll never forget.
You were, for people who don't know, I suppose, the complexities between Pakistan and India, and make that same, I suppose, mistake that people would say with us, that are you part, are you Great Britain, or are you part of the UK? And we say, no, 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 we're Ireland. The north of Ireland is arguably, we say it's Ireland, but
Yeah.
it's still under British control. For people who
Yeah.
don't understand the complexity, now my mother had a friend who was married to a man from Bombay,
Yeah. I
and
see.
he had a cotton mill in Bombay, and my mum used to always talk about him coming to Ireland and what a lovely man he was, and he was a friend at the time of Pandit Nero, and they
Yeah.
said, and apparently their uprising, and that was based on the Irish rising. He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. But could you explain to people, I suppose, the difference between Pakistan and India? And I think you just vanished there, Fahad. Oh, you're back again. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
difference between Pakistan and India. And I know you were born in India. You were born in India. No, you were born in Pakistan. That's right. Yeah. But your father was in the Indian Air Force.
Yeah, yeah. Difficult to explain because my father had a career in India, because it was one India. And I have a career, and I was born in Pakistan. My father was also born in part of Pakistan, but before it was
Before it was, yeah.
one subcontinent by the name of in the Indian subcontinent. But as we got a partition, you know, our leader was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was a Muslim League. We had a Muslim League, and he was the leader of Muslim League, and he was our leader. He was one of the member who from the group of Indian and Muslim leaders got together and got independence. And the British, they made a line on the Muslim part the of India, northern part of India. They made a line, and they made the partition that was West Pakistan, and we got another chunk of Pakistan on the other side of India, that was East Pakistan. Maybe do you know about that East Pakistan?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
not
okay,
a great deal. I would have to say
yeah.
it's always a great interest to me, but I always wonder how everybody mixes up the fact and says that somebody is Indian when in actual fact they may be from Pakistan, and you can uh, you can step into very dangerous territory, like you can't
Yes,
accuse in
yes,
Ireland
yes,
of being England.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. But it's a good history, but I have to tell you in a very short time that the part was the western part of India that became Pakistan, and on the eastern side of India that became East Pakistan, a small territory by the it was known as East Bengal. East Bengal.
and there was the
East,
Bengal tigers. They
yeah,
were,
Bengal tigers are from
yeah.
Bengal. But the Bengal was full, and the British, they made a partition of Bengal, the East Bengal and West Bengal. So the East Bengal was East Pakistan, and here is a partition West Pakistan. We had two Pakistans. But
Wow.
in the 71 war with India, uh, East Pakistan was liberated, and it became Bangladesh. It became Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got Pakistan alone, only one country, Pakistan. So this is a very, 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 we had a
Complex.
very,
It's
yeah,
almost as complex as the
complex.
as
Uh,
the situation here with us when we're asked, are you part of the UK? Now, I was born in the UK. I was born in London. So,
yeah,
Ireland is we're very much our own country here, but we always
yeah, yeah,
face the
yeah.
same similar dichotomy when people ask. But your dad, I was reading about your dad, and he had an absolutely fascinating story. Your dad's name was Aizad Baksh Awan, wasn't it?
Correct,
And
correct.
he was one of five people: Subruto
Yeah,
Mukherjee,
yeah,
Bunpendra Singh,
yeah.
Armajit Singh, and J.N.
Yes,
Kando. Along with him, five of those, the five of them became the first Indian
yeah.
pilots in
Very good, very
the
good.
newly
Yes.
founded Indian Air
Air Force.
Force.
Very good,
And
very
they
good.
were they were and they were trained in the UK.
Yes, yes. You see, they joined the British. The British took. They said we must have an Indian Air Force also, because Royal Air Force was very big. So they selected five cadets from India, various part of India. Five cadets. So one of the cadet was from my homeland and my father's homeland of Dera Ismail Khan, which is
Yeah,
in the KPK, nowadays KPK. Before it was Frontier, Northwest Frontier
Northwest
Province.
Frontier.
That was so the city's name was Dera Ismail Khan. My father was from there, but he was a Muslim, and all other four were one was Hindu, two were Sikhs, one was Parsi. So these were the five cadets selected from Delhi by the British Royal Air Force, and they selected those five cadets. They put them in on a ship from Bombay. They were sent from Bombay on a ship, passenger ship, to England. That ship went in 1930. That ship went in 1930 through the Suez Canal, Mediterranean, and to UK. And the college was Royal Air Force College, Cranwell. Have you heard the name Cranwell?
Branwell, I absolutely have. My dad was in the Royal Army Medical Corps
Ah, I
in the
see.
UK, and
I
I was
see.
brought
I
up
see.
with an interest, I suppose, in military because.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was interested that after about 5 years of they tried to disband the Indian Air Force because there was pressure being put on them to
Yes.
try and to try and um, uh, give your father a, a,
A
a
command.
high-ranking government position, but I was really,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
refused it. He refused it. He refused
Yes.
it, saying
Yeah.
that they had fought for so long to have an Indian Air Force, and that he was actually going to, um, if it meant dying in the plane, there was nothing was going to stop him from being a pilot and being part of the Indian Air Force. He wanted an
Y-
Indian Air Force for so long.
Yes. You have a very quite good grip on the history. You have a quite a good, but
Well,
it was
I
very.
started researching your father and I found him fascinating. I
I
just
see.
found him absolutely fascinating, man.
Yes, it's a great history. But my father has, just like you have written a book. My father has written a book, and the book's name is The Winged Wagon. The Winged Wagon is
Yeah,
all the history, because my father was in the Indian Air Force, so he wrote all about Indian Air Force, right from 1929, 1930 to till partition, independence of India and Pakistan. So this is the history of Indian Air Force. And this book was sent to India also by somebody, we don't know, but it went to India. And the chief of Indian Air Force and all the other senior Air Force officers, they contacted me and my son that your father, we have got the book and we want the history. We want to republish your father's book. But we said, no, we have got the copyrights. We have a copyright. We cannot give you permission because, of the tension between India, Pakistan. We could not give them permission to republish in India. So, but there's a great history of Indian Air Force. But when partition came, that is independence. India got independence in 1947.
yeah,
Pakistan also got independence in 1947.
yeah,
So my father was there. He was an Air Force officer, and he was having a struggle that I want a command of my squadron, because he wanted a command, and the
yeah.
British were not giving him command because they didn't want Indians to take command of certain high-ranking places. The British didn't want that. So my father had an argument with the British that no, if you cannot give me a command of one squadron, then I have to leave. I will leave the Air Force. And in 1947, he left the Indian
He
Air
did.
Force.
Yeah,
Rather, he left it in 1946. And when he came out, but independence hadn't taken
independence
place.
happened. Yeah,
So he opted for to become a airline captain. He in Delhi he joined the aeronautical some institute, and then he got trained for the airlines, and he got a examination of competency, as an airline captain.
airline
He got
captain.
airline captain, and he passed his license for airline captain. And for 1 year, he was flying in India as an airline captain with old aircraft of American origin, DC-6 Dakotas. Have you ever
Yeah,
heard the name DC-6 Dakotas?
I have.
So,
I've been researching them as well,
okay, okay,
because I
okay,
read
okay.
I read about your father, but he also spent time in the U.S. with the
Aha, in the year.
with the Air
Yes,
Force.
with the
Yeah,
Air Force. Yeah, I tell you, because when we were small, our father used to tell all the stories of his life, right from school, then to Government College Lahore, then selection from India, going to Cranwell, all the stories. So he said that he really wanted. I just got off the point. So he became an airline captain. And he was in India. And then finally, in 1947, we both got independence, India, Pakistan. And my father opted to come to Karachi, Pakistan. So all of the family, they flew from Delhi and they came to Karachi. When they came to Karachi, it was a new country. Pakistan was an absolutely brand new country, and there were very few senior officers. So my father opted to, in the government, he applied to the government and said, "I am an Indian Air Force pilot, and I am an Indian Air Force fighter pilot, and I'm also a captain in the airline captain." So they selected him for the civil aviation department in Karachi, the government of Pakistan. So in Pakistan, he got the career in the government of Pakistan civil aviation department. You know what is civil aviation?
I
Looking after
do.
airport.
My mother's godson, a relative of mine, a cousin of mine. He trained in the Irish Air Force, and
Ah,
when after he had finished his training, he got into Aer Lingus at the time.
oh,
Then
oh,
they
oh,
changed they changed the rule after that in the Air Force, that anyone that was trained in the Air Force, they had to work
yeah,
for a certain length of time afterwards for the Air Force, or they had to pay back the Air Force for their training,
yeah,
because a lot
yes,
of our
yes.
pilots were training in the Air Force and then leaving shortly after and going and working with commercial airlines, which is what he became a captain in Aer Lingus, but he was a captain
Oh, very
in
good,
the Air
very
Force.
good. Uh-huh.
But I do know that your dad had a really early fascination with flying when he saw an Air Corps DH-6 flying over his school. And he had
Yeah,
always that dream. And when
yes,
the Air
yes.
Force was sanctioned, the Indian Air Force in 1927, he
Oh,
he was tall. He was over 6 feet tall,
yes,
and
yes.
so he had no problem. But I felt so sorry for the poor misfortunate J.N. Tandon, who ended up having to leave. The he wasn't part, he was part of the original six, but he was too short for the
Oh,
for.
yes,
I
exactly,
just felt so
exactly.
sorry for him, because I know the feeling. And
Ah,
because when you're short, you're left out of everything. I just felt
yes.
sorry when I read about
Ah.
Jay and Tandon not
Tendon, yes.
yeah,
Uh,
not
yes,
being
you are very
part of
much
them.
right. My mother, being an wife of an Air Force pilot, she used to get all the stories, and she knew, and she remembers that time when all of this group of five, they used to get together. They used to have a nice time, and they used to call him Titch Tindon. Now I remember they used to call this man Tindon, Titch Tindon. You know what is a titch button? Titch
Titch,
button.
because he was tiny.
He
But
was
your
tiny.
dad's nickname was Zaidi.
Zedi.
Zaidi.
He was very popular because he had a very good sense of humor and he liked everybody. Now I want to tell you that my father, he was like they immigrated from Delhi to Karachi. They came into Karachi, Karachi was the capital of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Karachi was a new nation, a new capital, Karachi. So when he came, he started his life as in the civil aviation from all the different airports of Pakistan. Right from Karachi to northern Pakistan and then to East Pakistan and all that. So he had a great career also in the civil aviation also, and he used to tell us a lot of stories. And my mother, she used to tell us all the stories about the Air Force life, then the civil aviation life, and the history in Pakistan, what they did. So
Yeah.
it became a very interesting life for us, and we learned a lot from our parents. My mother was in a school in Murray, in a convent school by the name of Saint Denis Convent School, Murray Hill. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful school. My
Yeah.
mother was, yeah. So our family was very much Western oriented, Western oriented. British system,
Yeah,
and
and the nuns went out to India, and they set up a lot of schools, and
yes,
they gave a great education.
Yes,
So
yes,
many people that I've heard of who would not have been Christian or wouldn't have been, certainly wouldn't have been Catholic, went through
yeah,
the convent education system in places like India and Pakistan and
yes, yes,
and all over
yes,
the world.
exactly.
But your dad was he was selected to train the Afghan Air Force as well.
Afghan Air Force pilots, and the training center was in Karachi by the name of a place. There was a British air base by the name of Drigg Road.
Yeah,
The name of
yeah.
that place was Drigg, but there was nothing. So there was a road. So they named it Drigg Road. Drigg Road was the Air Force base, and the Afghan students, a lot of Afghan students came and they were given accommodation in Drigg Road. And my father was, because he was from frontier. My father was from frontier, from Dera Ismail Khan. He used to speak their language. Therefore, the British selected him. Said, Awan, Aizad Awan, you are ideally suited for these Afghan cadets because you can speak their language. He used to speak Pashto. You know, Pashto is a frontier language.
Yeah, but I've heard
So,
of it. But I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't. I confess I
yeah,
know very little about it. I know nothing,
yeah, yeah,
but I have
yeah,
heard about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's so
yeah.
many languages in. There's so many dialects, isn't there, in India and Pakistan?
India and Pakistan, there's so many dialects. India, we don't know much because we were born in Pakistan. We know much about. We have got four big provinces in Pakistan, and each province speaks a different language. For
But it's
example,
interesting that your dad didn't ever want to fly for the Pakistan Air Force
yeah, yeah,
he resigned from he was so passionate, I suppose,
yes,
about
yes,
the
yes,
Indian
yes, yes,
Air Force. But
yes.
he married your mother in April 1939.
Yeah, yes, 1939.
Taj,
In
Taj is your mother.
my mother's name was Taj. Taj means crown. You know the crown,
Crown, yeah.
crown. So her name was Taj, Taj Awan, and she was from Saint Denis Convent, Murray Hills. Murray is a beautiful hill station in our area. Murray. His name is
Yeah, Murray.
Murray. It's a beautiful hill station, and there was a convent school of Saint Denis. So we can never forget that school because our mother used to tell all the stories about Saint Denis school. It was not a. It was a. I mean, her accommodation was there. You know, they had to live right from the class fifth to Cambridge. From class fifth to Cambridge, she did it from Saint Denis High School. A beautiful school. Now, now I want to, Mary, how much time do we have
No,
now?
you're absolutely fine. We have as much time as you want. But
Mary,
I was interested. Cecil Arthur Bouchier was his commanding officer, and when
Boucher, sorry,
yeah,
Boucher,
yeah,
coordinator
I was
Boucher, yeah, Boucher.
pronouncing it as
Uh,
Bouchier as the French, but
uh,
well,
uh,
I mean, your father said to him, they lost two of the existing, say six pilots that had started. The two were killed,
yeah, yeah,
and one had left, and then your father, had been offered these civic positions, and he said that no, we started off, all I ever wanted to be was a pilot in the Indian Air Force, and
yeah,
basically uh, uh, there was a quote that when our dead body is extracted from the debris of a crashed aircraft, um, the Indian Air Force will be formed and we shall continue with the struggle. That he was never
yeah.
going to basically allow or allow the disbandment of the Indian Air Force. He was a very proud man, your father.
Yes, yes, yes. You know, the in the war days, of course, war started in Europe in 1939 and it till 1945. So the war was on, and the British selected him to make a tour of United States.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
the same time, in the same of his career, Indian Air Force career, he was selected, and then another senior British officer. You have seen the photograph, both of them standing together.
Yeah.
So senior British officer and
Is
my father, he was squadron leader, and they were sent to United States. and both of them went there. And then he told all the story about the war days of United States. And United States was a different world altogether. It was so huge, and their air force was so huge. My father was sent to different airfields, different
Williams Field in the United
Will,
States,
Williams Field. Yes,
and
that is
Fort
mentioned.
Worth. Fort Worth is very famous. I
Fort
mean,
Worth,
I don't
yeah.
think there's anyone who's into military who hasn't heard of Fort Worth.
Fort Worth, everybody's heard because it is in Texas,
Yeah,
Texas.
Texas.
Fort Worth is in Texas. So my father they sent him from one field to one state to all the states, many states. And then was one airfield by the name of Randolph Field. So they were I mean, he got a very good training in United States. And then he was sent there for a few months. Then he came back to India. War was on. And my father, their squadron was sent to Burma on the Burma front, and he used to tell us the stories about Burma War. It was so terrible war, because the Japanese were so terrible. They were just, going to take over India, and their squadron, their squadron was put into Arakan, a state of Burma. So there's the three squadrons of Air Force was put in Arakan, and they were fighting the Japanese. They used to dive bomb the Japanese positions, and they said they used to dive and bombard them so badly, but they never died. They
But
used to come out.
He had at the time, it was the Royal Indian Air Force.
Indian Air Force.
And now it's the Indian Air Force, and then there's the Pakistani Air Force. But your dad had a British Indian passport.
My father had a British Indian passport, 1943. In 1943, they made a passport for him.
Yeah.
But when he came to Pakistan, he changed from Indian passport to Pakistani passport.
Okay. That's interesting that he actually changed passports when he wouldn't change air forces and fly for Pakistan.
He gave up. Yeah.
And I was looking at some photographs, of him in the International Civic Aviation Organization training program. He was part of that as well. But your dad was from a very affluent family.
Yes, of course. His father, my grandfather.
Yeah.
He was a pleader. Pleader. Pleader? A lawyer.
A lawyer,
lawyer.
8th October 1932. 6 Indian officers, after 2 years of training at Cranwell, UK, were granted the King's Commission to form the Indian Air Force. The British aircraft they flew would start by hand-turned gear at a speed of 225 kilometers and was named after the North American deer. It was Westland Wapiti, popularly known as WAP. The gunner seated at the rear open cockpit had to be tied down with a chain to prevent him from flying off when the plane somersaulted. 5 Indian pilots had seen the action before during the First World War, but as part of the Royal Flying Corps, England. When the Second World War broke out, the IAF comprised of only 1 squadron with 16 officers and 269 airmen. By the end of the war, owing to their brilliantly daring performance, the IAF had 9 squadrons. In 1942, the Indian Air Force received what is known as one of the world's classic fighter planes, the Hawker Hurricanes. Through 1943 and 1944, the Hurricane Squadron fought on the Burma front. With a speed exceeding 480 kilometers an hour, the Hurricanes flew in pairs. The leader would watch and collect information, and the number 2, nicknamed Weaver, would protect his tail. In 1944, the Indian Air Force received what is considered one of the greatest combat aircraft ever built. With a speed of 720 kilometers an hour and famed for its role during the Battle of Britain, this was the legendary Supermarine Spitfire, and the Indian Air Force had over 350 of them.
I'm so happy that you know such a lot about history. And also, I want to discuss about your book, the great book that you have written. We should not
You know,
forget.
it's probably, as you said to me one time, it's probably the only Holocaust book that's in Islamabad.
Exactly. The nobody knows about the Holocaust.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah, and
knows
you
about
know
this.
it's quite sad actually, because you know, I mean, the United Nations, and human rights organization, everything was built around what happened during 1945,
Yeah.
1939 to 45.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it should be used in all schools really to look at
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
current
Yeah. Yeah.
current racism and what's happening in the world today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not going down that road. Of course, there were other atrocities. There were many, and there are many atrocities going on in the world.
Oh, oh,
But
oh, 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 oh.
you know
It
that
is, it was horrible, horrible. You know, more than
you
half the
bought
world.
my book, Freya. I'm really grateful to you for
Oh,
buying
yes, oh, yes.
buying the
I
book.
tell them all, I tell a lot of people about it. Then what is Holocaust? What is it? I tell you, more than half the world doesn't know what happened in Europe. They don't know
No,
nothing. They
no,
don't know.
no, and it's
They cannot,
and
they
it's
cannot
wrong. You
conceive
know,
it. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah. They cannot.
every country should know world religion, whatever the subject, whatever the area of, not world religion, world history.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, you find a lot that a lot of countries tend to look at their own. They're very introvert. They look at their own history and they teach
yeah.
their own history. But
Yes.
I think here in Ireland we have a
Yeah.
fairly good grounding in world history. We look at Ireland, England, and the rest of the world. And I think it's important that we look outwards, especially when we're part of this globe, that we don't just learn about our own history, that we try to learn about everyone else's history. You know, I mean, I look at photographs of my dad in uniform in
Yeah.
the British Army.
Yes.
I look at photographs of your dad, and I look at photographs, say, of your uncle Ayub Baksh Awan, who was the general of police, and
Yes. Yes.
and your brother's brother,
Uh,
or your father's brother. But you
yeah.
know, he was a fascinating man as well. He was appointed
Yes.
Interior
Yeah.
Secretary
Yes.
in
Yes. Yes.
1967,
Yes. Yes.
and he was IG police at the age of 39.
Yes, exactly. Very
IG
good. Very
police,
good.
and
My
then
God.
he won the Meritorious Service Award and other awards. For
He was my father's younger brother. His
Yeah,
name was Ayub Bakshawan, and he was at the final stages of his service. He became IG, that is Inspector General Police,
general.
East and West Pakistan. You know, by the senior officer, because he graduated from a very top university in India. He is a graduate from there. So both the brothers, he was in the Air Force and he was in the police. So now, Mary, I just want to tell you about this Holocaust.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, the when I read about it, like the cruelties done, nobody could imagine. I explained to here a lot of people in Pakistan, especially in Islamabad, that yeah, this happened like this, and they were completely unaware of these sort of things. You see, children, men, women, children, aged, old, so they were all eliminated from Eastern Europe and Europe. And what sort of a people were those who did that? And it's so cruel and it's so painful.
But Fahad, when a government or a power is given control, and they decide that one person isn't worthy of life simply
Yeah.
because of the color of their skin, the
Yes. Yes.
the fact that they're disabled, or that they
Yeah.
can, or that they're Jewish or Gypsy, or that that they don't hold the same view as the government, that they are
Yeah.
expendable. That's power is an aphrodisiac. Power is very, very powerful, if you like. And the more power you have, the more you want. And this is what happened with these people. You can't say that they weren't intelligent. Some of them, a great many of them, were brilliant minds, and that made it even worse. And I think what made it greater catastrophe is that many of the people who committed these crimes were ordinary, everyday human beings who turned against their neighbor because the government told them they should turn against their neighbor. They abdicated all sense of humanity and autonomous thought for what they thought was the greater good of their country. They were willing to kill and betray and torture their neighbor. People who had, in many cases, fought for Germany, fought for their country in World War I, were being turned against during World War II because they were either Jewish, they were Gypsy, they were Black, they were gay, or they were they were communist or socialist, or they had different views from the government that was in power. And that's the danger of government control to that extent. Do you know?
Yes.
You know, that's the danger when governments take control to that extent, that they control the minds of their citizens.
And Mary, especially, you see, I have children. I also have I have these children. I've got 3 sons, Asad, Fahad, Ahmad. One is a dentist in London now, and one is Fahad, and one lives with me upstairs. Yeah, people with children.
There's always one. There's always one that'll stay at home.
There's always one who stays at home. And thank God he decided not to go abroad, and he's upstairs, and he's got children. So I've got grandchildren also. So, whenever I used to read your book, plus Holocaust and all that, I used to feel a lot of pain because, my children, and then my grandchildren, and then my family's children and their grandchildren also. And these people, and they didn't leave anybody. All these sort of things, they didn't leave children, small little children also, kids. Right from schools, little children to teenagers, to men, women, old women, and they,
newborn babies.
How could they be? So you see, Mary, we are Muslims, okay?
Yeah.
We are Muslim, and in Islam, in Quran, that if you kill one man, if you kill one person, you kill the whole humanity.
And in Hebrew, in the Quran, not the Quran, in the in a Hebrew teaching, or in Jewish teachings, the Talmud says to save one life saves the whole world entire.
So it is the same concept. The Islam is also same concept, and in Hebrew is also same concept, and also I'm sure in Christianity also.
Christianity, absolutely. We have this belief that it just takes one person to make a difference in the world. You don't have, one person can make a massive difference when they speak out against injustice.
Yeah. So
you don't have to wait for a big crowd to make to all get together to create justice. You just need one person to be brave enough to stand up and speak. But I mean, I read a book one time, Let Me Go, My Mother and the SS, and it was by a woman called Helga Schneider, and she lives in Italy. Now, her mother was a member of the SS, working at Auschwitz concentration, death camp.
Yeah,
and she asked her, how could you kill little babies? And she said, because they would have grown up to be repugnant Jews. and the world would have had to rid itself of that repugnant race. And that was the mentality that they had. They didn't see the infant. They didn't see the newborn baby. They saw that newborn baby was growing up. It would be like saying, oh, well, we have to kill them because they're going to grow up to be a Muslim or a Christian. And that was the mentality that Trudy Schneider had.
So, I'm very happy that I got your book, because this gives a lot about children. You see, the literary representation of World War II childhood, especially concentrating on childhood. And but you see, yeah. So it's such a great thing you have written that this gets the heart. This thing gets the heart, the feeling in the heart of what happened, especially to the children. Unbelievable. Okay, now it's a painful thing. It's a very painful thing, and if you discuss too much, then people spoil our.
Well, when you sit back and think about it, Arshad, it's happening all over the world. In some form of other, people are being persecuted every day of the week.
Yeah,
maybe not as on a grand scale or an enormous scale as it happened during between the years 1939 and 45, the era that your dad was in the Air Force. And I wonder, had he had no knowledge of what was going on at that time?
Maybe they had, because he was in the war days. He was there. The war was started in 1939, and my father was in the Air Force.
And he was in Fort Worth.
When he started, he started from India. When he passed out from England, Cranwell is the Royal Air Force College. Cranwell is in the county, what I believe, Lincolnshire.
Lincolnshire, yeah.
Lincolnshire County. There is the Cranwell. And he passed out in 1935. They came to India. When the five of them came to India, they came to Karachi. First, they landed in Karachi and they were stationed in Ring Road. But then the war started in 1939. Being an Air Force officer, they definitely knew everything. They knew everything, what is happening in Europe and what is happening in the Far East with the Japanese. The Japanese were coming in from the East, and the Germans, and they were coming from that side. But they knew everything. And when the Holocaust started, it started in 1939-40. So I'm absolutely sure that all the officers knew about what is happening in Europe. They definitely knew, but not to that scale. That what a scale they did. They
no, I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody could conjure up in their mind. I mean, there's still thousands and thousands of. There's a Catholic priest in France, Father Patrick Desbois, and Father Patrick Desbois has set up an organization called Unum in Anam, I think it is called, and it's together in Hebrew and in Latin, the two versions of together. And he has done a documentary called Holocaust by Bullets, and he has gone through Eastern Europe, and they're still finding bodies. Fahad, you should YouTube. I'll send you a link to it because it's fascinating. They're still finding bodies of men, women, and children who were buried alive. The Nazis only used one bullet per mother and child, and there are people still alive who were 9, 8, 7-year-olds at the time who were given binoculars to watch as mothers and children were shot into mass graves. And the bodies have been found now. So they say that 6 million Jews, 5 million non-Jews, and 1.2 million children were killed. But that's really conservative, because when you look at all the bodies now that are being found that weren't in gas chambers but were shot, and many of them were alive when they were buried. And you know, it's a horrific time, and it's you know, it's a history that needs to be taught in order to understand racial hate of all kinds. You really need it, it needs to be taught in school. And I was honored when you said, I want to buy your book. And I'm even more honored that it's the only book probably in Pakistan or India on the Holocaust.
Only book, one book, and is specializing in this. You see, I told my son Fahad, he's Fahad and I'm Arshad. You know,
You're Arshad.
I'm Arshad, he's Fahad. I told Fahad, and you must get that book at all cost. I want that book at all cost. So he said, okay. He was doing here and there, but eventually he got in contact with you, and he got the book. And I was so happy. I said, Fahad, you've done a great job, yaar. Nobody could believe it that you could. But when I got it here,
it was all very furtive. I arranged with Fahad to meet him out at the Crest Shopping Centre, and we met, and his little girl and little boy were with him. And they came over, and I got a big hug from them, and they're closing.
Remember, I've been to Ireland in 2017, and now it is nearly how many years? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 years now. So in the meantime, I told you that when are you coming to Pakistan?
I remember a few years ago you said to me, for anyone who's listening to this, I interviewed, how I got to know you was through your son, Dr. Fahad.
Dr. Fahad.
Who I interviewed on a previous station for radio. And his beautiful wife was with him, and his children. And he happened to mention you, and we connected on Facebook, and I was looking through the conversation, the private conversations, you know, over the years. And, you know, we've had so many conversations over the years privately about history and about sending me family photographs and everything. I feel I know you forever.
In the middle somewhere, within these 4 years, somewhere, I had mentioned you about, I did all
the Islamabad FM.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I also told you that why don't you come to Pakistan? If you just make a trip to Pakistan, you come straight away to Islamabad, because Islamabad is the capital.
Yes.
Comparing to other cities of Pakistan, Islamabad is a little bit better. It's a little bit better. I won't say it's completely a beautiful, just like Europe. No, it is not like that. It is a little a mixture of primitive people and you know, from the villages also. But it's quite a better city, and especially it gives a resemblance of Ireland. You know, when I came back to Islamabad, I was remembering Ireland. I said, yeah, this is a little Ireland, Islamabad. And therefore I called you. I said, maybe if you get a chance, and don't worry about, you know, but nowadays, especially this Afghanistan issue, and the Americans getting out of Afghanistan and
Afghanistan. How is that impacting you? How is that?
It is affecting us. It is definitely affecting us. But you know, when the Russian invasion came, when the Russian invasion of Afghanistan came in 78, 79. So, you know, was it 78, 79 or 79, I think Russian invasion too. You know how many million Afghans came to Pakistan? And we were full of Afghanis, about 3 to 4 million Afghan people. They came to Pakistan, and they all spread out in Afghanistan. But in the capital, there were so many of Afghans, and in a very bad condition. But slowly they came to, you know, they were, you know, their conditions were getting better. We were affected that time very badly. But this time, our Prime Minister Imran Khan said that we'll not make that mistake and say our borders are open and all the Afghanis can come in. We did not do that, because we suffered very badly in that time, because the Russians got against Pakistan, and everybody got against Pakistan, because we are living in this region. We know the Russians, they were very dangerous people in those days, and then a lot of terrorism started in Pakistan because of this, because we were against Russia.
Yeah.
Then back and then now, when the Americans came out, we said we'd not make a mistake, the same mistake that we will allow all the Afghans to enter Pakistan because we suffered a lot.
Yeah, that's
In
interesting that you say that, because you have always the danger of racism
yeah, yeah,
and wars starting again. And you have people saying, well, why don't neighboring countries take in people? Like, why doesn't Pakistan, why doesn't India take
yeah,
in
yeah,
more
yeah,
refugees and
yeah,
more Afghani refugees? Why is it always Europe that
yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
to
They
take?
have to take.
And I can understand, that attitude, but I can also understand what you're saying, that there's always the
Yeah,
fear of war breaking out again in your country.
especially terrorism. You see, such a lot of terrorists came into Pakistan, and for about nearly 10 years, we suffered. Thousands of our soldiers died, about 70, 80,000 our RBF and police people, they died, and our cities were bombed. Everywhere there was a bomb explosion. So, somewhat like IRA, Irish
Yeah,
Republican Army, but the terrorists, they were also known as terrorists, IRA.
yeah. Well,
They were bombing a lot of places.
you know
The-
what they say about a terrorist,
yeah,
Fahad.
yeah.
You know what they say. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Oh, yes,
Ever
yes,
hear that?
exactly. Yeah, yes,
I
absolutely.
suppose, some
Uh,
people would say that the IRA here in Ireland were fighting for a freedom,
Freedom, yeah, yeah,
that we arguably got, except for part of the island is still under British rule.
yeah,
The
yeah.
uh,
Northern Ireland, Northern Ireland.
north of Ireland, but you know, yeah. The same with Pakistan and India. It probably,
Yeah, yeah,
would
yeah,
probably have all been still part of Britain if
yeah,
people hadn't actually, I suppose, there's that argument as well, that if people hadn't actually stepped up to the plate and fought for their country. I suppose it's just different forms of patriotism, but it's the level of atrocity that's caused by terrorism that is just
yeah.
simply objectionable.
Yes, yes, very much right, very much right. So, Mary, that offer it still stands for you. That invitation, that somehow you come to Pakistan, but
I'd
you will
love,
come.
I'd love to. My friend, my best friend since we were 4 years of age, got married in 1982 to he's Mohammed El Hawaji,
I see.
and he's
Uh-huh.
from Libya.
Oh,
And
okay, okay.
well, we thought when she went off to Libya in 1983, we thought, oh my God, because no one
Yeah.
ever heard of Libya. Nobody in
Yeah, yeah.
1983 from us. He came over to Ireland to train as an air traffic control. And,
Oh, oh,
and then
oh,
he went
yeah,
back to Libya. They had to finish their last 6 months in Libya in order to qualify,
yeah,
and as air traffic control officers, but he never
yeah.
went back to Libya for a few years. So when he went back, eventually, she loved the country, and
Oh,
and
oh, oh,
she lived
oh,
there for over 30 years and came back
oh,
regularly to Ireland maybe certainly once a year, twice a year, and she's here now because of the war breaking out. But her
yeah.
son is back in Tripoli,
I
and
see.
and and um and Tripoli is like, they don't know that there's any problems in Tripoli. It's like everyday life, normality.
Okay.
Again, when America, when the situation happened, in Tripoli, and with the overthrowing of Gaddafi, that's when they came home to Ireland. But she tells me about Tripoli, and about, everything wasn't a bed of roses there, but she had a beautiful life. She had a beautiful home. She had all
Yeah,
her friends.
yeah,
She had sunshine.
Yeah.
instead of constant rain. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and she had her family around her, and suddenly she was forced to leave a country that she had. Well, Ireland was always going to be her home. She's Irish, but she had come to see this country as her home, and
Yeah.
then she was ripped out of it and had to come home because of the war in Libya. And you know, you listen to all these beautiful stories about the beautiful architecture, and I've had other friends who went to Libya who thought it was just architecturally stunning. And you don't see these stories, Afghanistan or India and Pakistan. All you hear about is the fighting or the problems there. You never hear until you speak to somebody like you,
Yeah.
Mohammed,
Yeah.
about the beauty of countries like
Right.
yours.
Very much right. Very much right. I'm so happy that you have contacted me here in Pakistan, and you're talking about Libya also. Uh, that area, I mean, that part of the world, Libya, that's an Arab world. That is
Yeah.
Arab world. But this is, of course, Oriental Orient, and we are India, Pakistan is completely different, but a very important place,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
special a very important place, and especially Pakistan. Luckily, we were you must be like, we are not so much advanced, we are not very much developed. It's Pakistan is a, but being in a very important place in a location wise, on one side is India, one side is Iran, and on the north is China. On the northern side is China.
Fascinating,
Eh,
fascinating
fascinating,
geographics.
fascinating geographic, and the but we were very lucky since about 60 years, 65 years, 70 years, we didn't know much about China. But when we came to know about China, and the China came to know about us, China saw a lot of interest in Pakistan. Why? Because they were getting the ports, the Arabian Sea. They wanted to export all their trade through Pakistan to the Arabian Sea, like Karachi port or like Gwadar port. And within about 10 years now, or 5, 10 years, the China came to know the importance of Pakistan. He said, wow, they got a very beautiful outlet. You know, it can have a beautiful outlet of China has got a very heavy industry in China, and
Yeah.
especially on the eastern
Yeah.
side of, oh sorry, the western side part of China is heavy industry, and they don't have export exits. So they chose Pakistan, and now we have given them a corridor right from China through Pakistan to the Arabian Sea. And in Arabian Sea, we have got two ports, Karachi and Gwadar, and they are so happy. They are investing heavily. And Mary, you will be surprised that we did not see such a lot of development in Pakistan since China came in. They are investing by
I can
millions of,
imagine. It's just a
yeah,
superpower, isn't it, China?
is a superpower, just our neighbor. You see, before we had everything to do with United States. We were the friends of United States, a superpower. But they used to pay us, they used to develop us, and they used to pay us. They used to give us aid. But in return, they wanted a lot of things. In return, they wanted bases. They want this. They wanted them to be in their club. So
Yeah.
we had to be in their club. But now, slowly, as a superpower is our neighbor, and China has got a very different policy. They are not the same policy like United States. They are not. They don't have that policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that way we are lucky. We are lucky that we got a. You see, our defense requirements now is being done by China. First, we were dependent on the West, like Europe, United States. But now our dependency is going more towards the east, where the China, and China is happy and we are happy.
Do you see any problem with the connection with China, given it's probably a difficult question to ask you. I'm not even
Yeah.
sure if you understand about it, but with China's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims
Aha, yes, that
and
is
the
a problem
torture
there.
of Uyghur Muslims, how does
That
that sit
Yeah.
with you? Arshad?
Yeah.
Because I
Uh, yeah.
interviewed a man who is the president of the World Uyghur Congress,
I
and
see.
I
I
also
see.
interviewed an Irish lawyer who is working with the United Nations, and she whistle blew on her boss, who was giving names to the Chinese government of Uyghur Muslims, and their
Yeah.
families were being tortured in order to
Yes.
keep them
Yes.
silent from speaking
Yes.
out against
Yes.
China. How
Yes.
does that kind of settle with people in Pakistan? Because given that it's Pakistan, I would imagine, I think there's only 7% who are not Muslim in Pakistan.
Uh, what do you mean by 7%?
Is there's I thought I read somewhere that there's a very a small minority of people in Pakistan, say, who wouldn't be Muslim, but other than that, the majority of people in Pakistan would be Muslim. How would they feel about China's treatment of, say, the Uyghur Muslims?
Uh, uh, I would like to tell you that, you see, about only recently, between 5 to 10 years, we have started to know about China.
Yeah,
Majority of Pakistanis don't know nothing about China. Even me, I do a lot of study and research, and
yeah,
but even I don't know much about their treatment with the Uyghur Muslims. We
yeah,
don't know, but
yeah,
we have. I came to know about it, but not too much.
yeah,
And the majority of Pakistanis don't know nothing about Uyghurs and what they are doing with the Muslims of China in Uyghur province, and there are a lot of Muslims there. And we believe, and as far as I'm concerned, I know they are doing a very strange things with the Muslims. They are
mm,
trying to absolutely discourage them with the Islamic traditions, with mosques.
yep,
They are
yeah.
banning
It's
all.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
total persecution of the Uyghur
Persecution.
Muslims.
Yes, yes, it
And
is there.
any one of them
Yeah,
that go to try and speak at the United Nations about
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
oppression
yeah,
of
yeah,
Muslims in
yeah,
Uyghur
yeah.
Muslims,
Yoga,
their
yoga. Yeah,
their families are being persecuted in order to stop them speaking out. But the United Nations are releasing the
yeah.
names of these Muslims ahead of them turning up at the United Nations, which in itself is an atrocity. It's a complicity of the United Nations
Yes, yeah.
in this, and it was an Irish lawyer who broke the information. She actually came on my show and
I
spoke
see.
about it. And I had the president of the World Uyghur Congress come on and talk about it also, and about the persecution of his family. And he has not seen his parents or his family in years. He doesn't know if they're alive or dead in China. And
Um,
it's only starting to come out now, really, what is happening. So I suppose it's understandable you don't really know a whole lot about it, because I suppose the world doesn't know a whole lot about it as yet. I
yeah,
only got to know about it through Emma Riley, who's a
yeah.
lawyer for the um, uh, the uh, the head of the United Nations. She is he's she works for him, and they're trying to fire her because of she breaking the news, but she's fighting the good fight on behalf of the Uyghur
Uh,
Muslims. We
I
don't
see.
want the world doesn't want that persecution again that happened in 1939, 45.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Mary. You have a lot of knowledge about it because you've studied this too much, and you have quite a good grip on this information. But we have been the majority of Pakistani people. They have been kept away from the whatever is happening in
Information.
China. Yeah, what is happening there? They have been kept away deliberately. They keep them away from the Muslims of China. One province is with touching with Pakistan. The border is touching with Xinjiang or something like that. Is a province,
Xinjiang, yeah.
Xinjiang. It is touching Pakistan. We go from Pakistan to that capital, Kashgar. You must have heard the name Kashgar. That is the
Yeah,
capital of that
I
Muslim
heard of
state.
Xinjiang.
Yeah. So our border is touching that. We know little about that. But what is happening in China, which the Chinese government, they have kept it a sensor on it, a very powerful sensor system, so that this thing doesn't go out of China.
Yeah,
So and especially Pakistan, because they are helping Pakistan too much. And Pakistanis know it that this is the most sensitive issue in China, the Uyghur Muslims of China. If we are not in a position, we were not in a position to interfere in that situation, because then China will, they don't tolerate this. They don't tolerate it. Just like India and Kashmir, just like India in Kashmir, they are doing
yeah.
too much since 70 years. They are doing terrible things, just
And
uh,
Burma,
like
Burma.
not like Holocaust, but like slaughter. Since 70 years, what they are like India doing in
Genocide.
Kashmir, the genocide they are doing in Kashmir, India. But because we are, why we are enemies, India and Pakistan? Because of the Kashmir issue. We are fought four wars with India over Kashmir, and the last war over Bangladesh. But the same situation is in China. China is hiding the Uyghur situation. They censor it so terribly that it doesn't go out of China. And Pakistanis, very, very few people know about China, and they don't know nothing about Uyghur situation. So, and it has been advised that please do not interfere with Chinese politics and their internal matter, because it's a very sensitive thing. If if we get up, because we are a Muslim majority nation, Pakistan is a Muslim majority nation.
Yeah,
What happened with Pakistan when we were fighting with India about the Muslims of Kashmir?
yeah,
We had a very terrible situation between India and Pakistan. And in the last war with India in 70-71 war, we lost our East Pakistan. So if we indulge now in the Chinese internal matters, so we will have a very bad situation. China will not tolerate us. China will not tolerate us. Now, Mary, because I'm in Islamabad, I know what the Chinese investment is pouring in Pakistan like anything. They are making infrastructure. They are making roads, tunnels, roads which we could not dream, which Pakistan could not dream. That what sort of a thing China is doing? America
yeah.
never did that. For America gave us aid.
I think it's
To
all it's all back down to to what I was saying there earlier in the conversation, the importance of open and transparent media, and open and
Yes.
transparent
Yeah.
interest in
Exactly.
history,
Exactly. Interest in history.
and
So,
world
uh,
history, world
yeah,
history. But
yeah,
Fahad or Arshad,
yeah.
um, uh, when are you coming back to Ireland?
Oh, we tried, but you know about COVID,
Yeah.
Corona. It spoiled. It spoiled us. It spoiled all our program. Absolutely, we were supposed
Oh,
to come last year in 2020. We wanted to come to Ireland, but we could not. 19, 20, and now it's now 2021, and it just ruined all our travels to Ireland.
yeah.
But
People like Fahad
yeah,
are going to do very well out of COVID, with people needing psychiatrists after all of this lockdown, because we're going to go insane from it.
yes, yes,
It's
yes, yes.
dreadful. What's it
It's
like?
dreadful.
What's it like in Islamabad? Are you back to
Uh,
normal?
yeah, we are comparing with all the other Asian countries. We are comparing with India. We are comparing with China. We are comparing COVID, and we are comparing with Iran. In this region, Pakistan is the best situation. We are in COVID wise, we are the best situation. We are much better than India, Iran, and other countries in our region. So Pakistan is good, and especially nowadays, the end of this year, our percentage is coming very, very low, and we have improved. Everything is opened up. Everything, business and economy now is getting better. Everything's become better. because of COVID is the minimum position of COVID nowadays in Pakistan. It has reduced quite much, and no masks, and transport is open, business and all the shops and business centers, they are opening up. It's much better now, and
And
UK,
and we're
uh,
talking about closing down again. Our government is talking about closing down again. It's just
okay,
insane. It's just
uh,
insane here. You'd go completely off your mind with what's going
uh,
on. It's just if you it's wall to wall coverage. It's just wall to wall. I prefer to stay on the internet now. At least I can choose what I want to watch instead of turning on the news wall to wall
yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like
Pakistan,
it's
Pakistan has
psychological.
opened up.
It's like psychological warfare. It,
Yes, yes.
it's driving us all mad on this island. But Arshad, it's been an absolute joy interviewing you and chatting with you. It's just been like a chat.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's just like a chat. Yes,
just
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I wanted to, in the next meeting with you, or in the next, not your Zoom with your special Limerick International. Privately, if we talk, I wanted to show you the part of my family. I wanted to show you my grandchildren. I wanted to show you my wife. I wanted to show you my house, so that Mary. But this being the first interview with you, and we have been absolutely focused on my father's history, my family, and our stay in Islamabad, and your Irish identity, and about your book and my father's book. You have made us focus.
hold up your dad's book.
Yeah, it has become old, but that is it.
Wow. Drop it down a little bit until we see the name. That's it. The winged what? The winged wagon. The
The
winged
Winged
wagon.
Wagon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Winged Wagon. And these are the first five pilots in Cranwell.
I know I
And
have the photographs. You'll be shocked. You'll be surprised when you see how much research I've done.
this is my father standing here with a plane. It's a trainer. And when he went to Cranwell, his instructor, squadron leaders, Boucher.
Voucher, yeah.
And when he told the story about, when my father told the story about India and D.I. Khan, a plane came on the school and it was going on a small, because Dera Ismail Khan was a very small town,
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
village, bit town. And he saw my father, the whole of the school ran out, and saw a plane circling on top. And then they say a plane came and it landed in a sandy, dusty runway field, and it landed. And you know what Boucher told him? Was that, Awan, you were from that village in Dera Ismail, and that pilot was me. And
Yeah.
Boucher was the
That was an
pilot.
air that was an Air Corps DH-6 your father saw
Yes,
flying
yes,
over,
yes,
and
yes.
that's actually what developed his passion for the. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing
Yeah.
that just seeing one plane was to change your whole life?
So this is my father. This is my father.
Yeah, I know. I have that photograph as well.
Royal Air Force uniforms. This is my
That's
father.
right.
So my father had a great love for England and for Britain, because
Yeah,
of course England trained them and they gave them planes and air force training in England, and that he was
they got a great
so
training. They got a great training
yeah,
because the
yeah,
Royal
yeah,
Air
yeah.
Force is a great Air Force.
In a way, Mary, British people, English people, or the Irish people, or the English, they were very, very broad-minded, and they were intelligent, and they conquered nearly all of the world, whole
Yeah,
Asia, whole Africa,
yeah,
British
yeah,
Empire. It was the
yeah.
British Empire. But Mary, they developed India and they developed Pakistan. They developed a lot of big infrastructure. They developed all the ports, and airports, and seaports, and roads and railway, what not, up till now. the part in Pakistan developed by British in those days, it is still there. Their bridges, their tunnels, their railway, their roads, their cities. So now we say that the British, they used to always think 100 years ahead. If they used to make a bridge, they used to have, it should last for 100 years. So now a lot of people appreciate the British.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
This is a,
really, when you think about it, it's amazing that from, say, the 7th of September 1930 until the 20th of July
yeah,
1944, your
yeah.
father went from a flight cadet to
From
a
a flight cadet,
squadron leader
yeah,
and
from that
a
time,
commanding officer in
just
in
imagine. Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
in the Royal, at the time, I suppose it would have been the Royal Indian Air Force.
It was known as the Indian Air Force,
Yeah,
but the training, the aircraft, the training, the structure, everything was British.
yeah,
Only
yeah, yeah.
the people were Indians, but everything was British.
But you say that now, Arshad, and and
Hmm.
there's a lot of truth in Arshad, and there's a lot of truth in that. When you've been colonized, I suppose, by a country for so long, as India and Pakistan together, and Ireland was, no matter what you do, there's still remnants of colonialism
Yeah,
that
colonialism.
remain
Yes,
in the
yes, yes.
psyche. And
Yeah.
I mean, we look here and we still watch. Well, I mean, I'm English born, and my father was English, and all my family are in England. But I watch British TV or comedy, and I have, we have there's something still in all our psyches that are forever connected because of that colonialism.
Yeah,
It's something that
yeah.
you could spend forever trying to break that colonial
Yeah, yeah,
genetic kind of, if you like, line that goes through us. That and here in Ireland, I suppose, they fight so hard to be, say, to rid themselves of that colonial past, but it's always there somewhere in us, that
yeah, yeah,
colonialism, and
yeah.
it carries through the psyche.
For,
We
for example,
like the
yeah,
same foods, we like the same culture. We're all, we share the same language, we share the same sense of humor. You look at
yeah,
British
yeah,
comedy, and we look at soccer, British sport, and there's all still that connection. But yet we're, here in Ireland, we're Irish.
yeah,
All
yeah,
There'll
yeah,
always be that colonial influence going through,
yeah,
whether we
yeah.
like it or not, sadly, for some, for great many. And it's there in Islamabad, and in Pakistan and in India, and you appreciate, I suppose, the training your dad got, and your dad
Yeah, yeah,
appreciated the training. So there's
yeah,
been
yeah,
good
yeah.
aspects, I suppose, and there's been shockingly bad aspects of
Yeah.
colonialism.
But my father, but being a father and we are children, we have always heard, always my father, or even the Indian cadets, or my father, Indian officers who were on, they all of them, they used to mainly appreciate what the British were doing with them and what they did. They developed the airport, the airfield, their air force. Who developed the Indian Air Force? Royal Indian Air Force. Who developed it? The British. And what our base are the Indians. India's base is, the base is made by the British. The method of training. What about the Pakistan Army? What about the Pakistan Navy, Air Force? What about the Indian Air Force? Their base is made
The
by
roads, the buildings here in Limerick, there's so much Georgian architecture,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
so much structures in our city alone that
Huh.
are a throwback to colonialism, if you like.
Yeah.
positive throwbacks, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But then in the architecture, I mean, and
in the environment.
but then there's some shocking aspects of colonialism as well.
It has to be. You see, in India, it was a Muslim empire, the Mughal Empire. You see, Mughal Empire was a Muslim empire, and it stayed there for nearly 1,000 years. India was governed by the Muslims. It was a Muslim empire. So now, and look at their architecture, look at their system. They gave a lot of things to India. The same way the British ruled India for 200 years, British, and look what they gave to India. You see, there are the good sides, there are the good sides, and there is
bad sides. Well,
both the sides. It has to be. It has to be. But now, since we got independence, we are now 74 years of independence. What have we done? What have we done by 74 years? We have developed very little. What have we done? Pakistan is not developed, but not so much like in the days of the British. So it developed. So what have we done? So, we have to appreciate a lot of things. We have to appreciate them also. But there are, of course, there are a good aspect, and there's a little depressing aspect. How they ruled us. They took out all our the wealth. As the Indians are crying. India's lot of time they say they have taken all our wealth to Britain. That's what they say.
Yes,
but they never say.
That's part of the shocking history of colonialism, where there's the negative, there's the positives. When I say positives, there's positives that they contributed in the architecture and in language and in culture and in roads and in infrastructure and that.
Infrastructure, yes.
And school and whatever, but after that, I mean, every land deserves to have its own, to run its own country and to make their own decisions about the running of their country. But Arshad, again, it was just absolutely fabulous talking to you. I was nervous. I will say I was nervous about the interview, not with you, but I suppose to try and research, I suppose, your dad. And the more I actually went through his life, or the more I was reading him, I was up until 5 o'clock this morning.
Oh my God.
looking at photographs and reading about him and thinking, my God, these men were pioneers in an air force that would not have existed had it not been for them. And I mean, of the existing six, of the original 6, 2 were killed. One was fired or released, and one of them then couldn't go any further because he was like me, too short. He was small. And then there was your dad and Mukherjee, wasn't it?
Mukherjee, yes. And he was from Bengal. Yeah, Mukherjee was from Bengal, Indian Bengal, and he was a Hindu. You see, one Muslim and one Hindu, 2 Sikh and 1 Parsi. There were 5 different religion. My father was Muslim. So, in Pakistan, they call my father, he was a pioneer and the first Muslim pilot in the subcontinent. That's what the Pakistani Air Force and people say about him. But and our air headquarters is in Peshawar, and there my father, he donated his uniform, his helmet, his goggles, and all of his suit to the museum in the Air Force Museum, Peshawar. And up till now, there's a room where my father first came. It's written Pilot Officer Awan. That was the first Muslim pilot. His name is up till now. So they appreciate him. The Air Force. When my father died in Karachi in 19 uh, 89.
89,
89.
yeah.
My father, he died in 89 in Karachi, and the Pakistan Air Force came in, and they were told that he's a pioneer of pilots and the first Muslim pilot, and they gave him the Air Force ceremonial. Air Force ceremonial. The trucks came, and the Air Force police came, and they brought a truck and jeeps and everything, and they gave him uh, a ceremonial burial of Air Force. And
Yeah,
in
that's
a
right.
graveyard, and in a
I saw
graveyard,
his grave. I saw his grave
yeah,
in
yeah,
one
yeah,
of
oh,
the
yeah.
photographs. Yeah.
And that graveyard is the a defense graveyard, Army, Air Force, Navy special graveyard, and they are my father and mother both are buried there. And you see, it's an honor for us as a family that the Air Force took him over, and they gave him a ceremonial burial, and
But
with all the
in true Indian stroke Pakistani fashion, he was very, very into cricket and into sports, and he played in Cranwell, and he
yeah,
played a lot of tennis in Cranwell. He
yeah,
represented the
yeah,
army
yeah.
and all of that
Uh,
as well.
he was a hockey captain in the
Yeah,
Air Force team, hockey captain, football captain, and he was an inter services tennis champion,
tennis champion. Yeah.
inter services tennis champion. So he was a very good sportsman, and everybody recognize him, and he's got a good name in the Pakistan Air Force also. In the air headquarters, he's got a very good name.
I'll have
Yeah.
to interview you sometime about yourself, all
Okay.
about
Okay.
you
Yeah.
and your
Okay.
work. But
Uh,
Fahad, again, thank you very much for coming on. Arshad, I should say. I keep on saying Fahad.
yeah.
Arshad, I should thank you
Yeah.
so much for being my guest
Yeah.
today. It was an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure. And salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Mary. And you have taken a great time for us. I could never expect that you will give me so much time.
Yeah,
And next time we will have a regarding our life in Pakistan and about Islamabad, and there's a great
that's what
history here.
that's
Yeah,
what I wanted to do, a two-part with you. One part
yeah,
about your
yeah,
dad, and then
yeah,
now we're into the Pakistan side. It was
yeah,
India, now it's
yeah,
Pakistan, and your
yeah,
life, and
yeah.
the life of your family and your children. And so Shinder Leshan Clor, that's the end of the show for today. Until the next
Okay,
time,
okay,
on,
okay. So,
until the next time, Lacoon of Day, Wawalam to Galer Chiacana, Sonas August Grow. I wish you peace, happiness, and love. Salam alaikum again,
okay,
Arshad, and
okay.
God bless. And
Thank you so much.
keep in
Thank.
touch.
I will keep in touch. Thank you so much, and thank you for your Irish this station. LIR, is this LIR?
It's pronounced as Lear, Lear,
Ah,
as in Learjet. If you think of a Learjet,
Learjet. Okay, okay. Ah,
it's a mythological tale, Irish mythological tale about the children of Lear, and
I
they
see,
were
I
they
see.
were three brothers and a sister, Fanula, A, Fiacra, and Khan, and
I see.
they were turned into swans by their wicked stepmother, and
Oh,
destined
oh,
to spend the
oh,
rest of 900 years traveling the globe and
oh.
never to settle in Ireland. And I just took that mythology to
I
represent
see.
our travel to the whole world through radio. So we've
Oh my
turned
God.
to a station that will metaphorical swans. We are traveling to all corners of the globe through radio. So that's
I'm so happy and honored that you have given us time. You have given us time for my father, for my family, for my country, for Islamabad, and you've got another program, inshallah,
inshallah,
sometime,
inshallah.
inshallah,
Yeah,
we'll meeting sometime, and I'll be talking about Ireland, about you, about Ireland, and comparing Ireland with Islamabad and with Pakistan. And I'm so happy that you have given time to us and to my father, to my country, and I gave the same
my
respect
pleasure. It's my pleasure,
for
Arshad. I've been I wore you down eventually. I tried
yeah.
so hard to have you on. Eventually, I got you on.
I was, avoiding because I got a lot of dental problem, and they put a lot of uh, what do you call it, teeth, artificial teeth here and there, and I was so upset. How will I talk to Mary? How will I talk to her? Because you see, you got very good teeth. You are very lucky.
God God bless her and save them, as my mother would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
bye bye, Arshad.
Okay, okay, okay. So nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Salam.
much.
Bye bye.
Walaikum salam. May Allah keep you happy. May Allah keep you happy. May Allah always keep you happy.
And the same to you. The
Yeah,
same to you.
yeah,
Gadei
yeah, yeah.
we say Gadei Shiv Slán in Irish. God be with you.
Ah, mashallah, mashallah. I'm so happy for you. May Allah give you a long life and keep you happy, because you're doing a lot. Plus, yeah, you are a Dublin City University graduate, and you have done. You are highly qualified, and it feels good to talk to you, because you
It
have a
feels good for me to talk to you
vast
too.
you have a vast knowledge and about the globe, and vast knowledge, and it's very nice to talk to such a person.
Thank you,
Very nice,
Arshad.
very nice, very nice. I will tell this to all my family and all my friends.
Great. Fantastic. And I'll see you on Facebook.
Okay, okay, thank you very
Bye
much. Thank
bye.
you very much. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.